Okay, welcome to my December 3rd post-stream reflections. I am Jocktal, and I have many things to say about level 75. Oh my gosh. Okay, so as far as my whole replay has gone so far, this has to be my least favorite part replaying it. Now that's not to say that it's not fun. It was just kind of a slog. And if you go and you're watching my VOD and then you watch this, you probably heard me complaining a little bit, and I'm sorry for that. But I feel like if you're gonna really love something, you have to be able to like give it a little bit of critique every now and when it deserves it. And I feel like this is one of those instances that deserves a little bit of critiquing. So in particular, I feel like the game let me down music-wise more than anything, because having like metalsome music can really affect the mood of the player itself. And so like the way that happened was Nami's trying to sit down on the chair. I love her. That's Nami, by the way, my free company member. She's wearing the Santa outfit. I think she looks great. But yeah, so they did this thing where they start playing really aggressive action music while you're still in the middle of getting a lot of dialogue. Like Jocktal is still checking in with Oriange. Is there any reason we shouldn't suspect that the Light Warden is in Raktika Great Falls? And Oriange's like, goes into this 30-paragraph explanation as to why there's no reason to suspect the Light Warden would be anywhere else other than him just saying just no. Like Oriange could have said no. Meanwhile, in the background, we have bah, 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 bah. It's like the most aggressive driving music. And I really feel like this level was rushing me to finish it. I like to just ease through storylines. Let me just sit back. Let me just enjoy things a little bit. Let me take in the sights. Let me look around a little bit. Let me appreciate the outfits. Let me look at the updated graphics. But the whole time I entered the Raktika Great Woods, it was rushing me with music. Have you experienced that? Let me know what you think. Also, another thing that was a positive stand, and out for positive standouts, because there are positive things for this level as well. Emet-Selch has optional dialogue, which I cannot believe is optional. That blows my mind. If you talk to him when you're in the V's village, then he will say to you that he's alone on the first, and which I have a note about that as well. But he says that Aegeorm was 13th Ascian on her own. This is lore that he talks about, and that she failed miserably on the 13th. We all know the 13th turned into the void, and that led them to working in tandem. So then on the first was assigned to Metron and Logriff. I'm sure those names will come back another time, but he says that's a story for another time. He says that they were killed by the Warriors of Light. And this is all really major foreshadowing for stuff that comes down the pipeline. So it was really interesting to see that just comes from like casual optional dialogue from Emet-Selch. Like, I love that dude for just spitting all this truth on us. But then, so another thing, he says he's alone on the first, and that strikes me as interesting for two reasons. One reason is because Emet-Selch chose the first to put Emerald. So the fact that he's alone on the first and he put Emerald there, I think it's something like he wants to hide his sentimentality from the rest of the Ascians. Like, he doesn't need them knowing that he's got this dollhouse where he plays with like little doll versions of Hythlodaeus and everybody else. Like, he doesn't need them knowing all that. And then, but I thought that was really interesting. And the second reason why I think that's interesting is that the first, it is difficult for Ascians to do their full thing there. He says it's kind of like the amount of light there slows down the ether. So it's like difficult for him to walk alongside us. I think the reason why Emerald is there is because the first has a slow ether decay, and that's his magic spell in Emerald will last so long. So I think those are the two reasons why I found that dialogue interesting. We also talked about in chat why the people of Elpis were so vulnerable to the end of days, but I think that's a conversation we can reserve for Endwalker, now that I think about it. And I want to say I also think that Ronka, the Empire of Ronka, seemed to be really interested in Hydaelyn lore and the Sundering. They had those murals, those amazing murals of the end of days over Emerald, the summoning of Zodiark, the battle between Zodiark and Hydaelyn, and then Hydaelyn standing triumphant over Zodiark. They had that. Where did they get this knowledge from? Well, they said the temple is preserving the knowledge of the ancients. Now, I think Emet-Selch, being his Emet-Selchi way, I think he came to the people of Ronka and he was like, here's stuff. Like, for some reason, I get the feeling of Emet-Selch's kind of involvement there. I think he was the ancient that preserved, that gave them the knowledge to preserve. That's what I really believe. Another thing, so when we were looking at that mural, that's when the gaslighting started. Like, that's when the whole gaslighting thing about Hydaelyn starts, right? He says, oh, Zodiark and Hydaelyn fought and they fought and they fought. That's not true. We find out that that's not true. It's not true at all. It was just that things were going to shit, and Hydaelyn knew that it was the only way that she could save these people was to split them all into 14 chunks. So it's like, but he's tempered, so he's kind of like a skewed point of view about it. He also reveals to us that they're not gods but primals. That's a huge story note. And it made a lot of the level 75 questline worth it on the first playthrough. But since we already knew that on the replay, it really didn't justify the rush of music that we have been getting the whole time. Getting that reveal was pretty interesting because it made me think back to the first time. Right? It made me go back to the first playthrough. What was my reaction the first time? I thought I was tempered. I thought that meant that we were tempered because even when we go back to the hotel and we're talking to Ardbert that night in the first level 76 quest, he's talking to us about like, well, if they are primals, then what is the blessing of light? And that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm tempered to Hydaelyn, and that's why none of the other primals could tempt me. The blessing of light is being tempered to Hydaelyn. Holy shit. So I just really remember that being the beginning of me not trusting Hydaelyn on my first playthrough. And the gaslighting is so good. Emet-Selch is a master of using half-truth to kind of guide you to lead his way, like of where he wants to head. He also reveals that they were natives of the Sundered Paradise. And then right after this amazing dramatic scene where we get all this incredible lore and we get all this emotional investment into the Ascians' motivations and Emet-Selch's past, boom, LAHEE. And that's what I have an issue with this level of questline. It's just the LAHEE of it all ruins it for me. But the lore was great. It was all really fun to hear. And then we defeated the Light Warden in Qitana Ravel. Following the destruction of the Light Wardens, we're given a glimpse of the reflection, the source. And what I think is really neat is that since the calamities are reflections of great catastrophes that are going on the shards, I think it only stands to reason that the activity we're doing to prevent the calamity on the shard is being reflected on the source. And so I think the activity of killing the Light Warden is specifically reflected in the advancements of the Black Wolf and Estinian in destroying the Black Rose on the source and preventing that calamity from taking place. And I think it's pretty neat to see the direct correlation because they're only showing us glimpses of progress on that front when we kill Light Wardens. And so I really love that touch that they're doing. I don't know if it's on purpose, but I do know that. And one of the last things we saw was that Xenos is back in Garlemald, and he thinks he's waiting for his friend to get involved. Now, I don't know what friend he's talking about. Surely it can't be me, because when did I sign up to being this man's friend? The delusion is real. The delusion is strong. But it's really interesting how far it takes him and takes us to the fucking moon and beyond, right? Well, those are my thoughts and my moanings about, and my praises about level 75 and the last part of level 74 and the first part of level 76. MSQ. Next stream will be tomorrow, which is going to be the 4th of December if you're not watching this on the date of its release. So 4th of December is when I intend to do Roll Quest. So we're going to be doing part 3 of Roll Quest, which is the level 74 of them all. So if you're watching episodically on YouTube, that's going to be the next reaction video. Hop over to the playlist and watch the VOD and see how it went. If you're watching live on Twitch, then I'll see you in stream. Take care now. Bye-bye then. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.